Hey, welcome to today's live stream. I appreciate you checking it out. We're going to be talking about what's going down in the Middle East. Excuse me, new developments always are, unfolding there. It appears that Israel is involved in the Syrian situation. Shocker, shocker. When I first heard that Syria had supposedly fallen, my initial thoughts were, oh, this sounds like Iraq. This sounds like Libya all over again. I'm probably leaving some out. Maybe it's going to be another Afghanistan situation. I don't know. Once you see the pattern, you can recognize it more readily, right? I mean, when Iraq fell, the citizens were pulling over the statue. Everyone was happy. I don't know as much about Iraq as I do about Libya. My understanding is Libya is a complete shit show today even. And that happened early, 2011, right? I think it was involved with the Arab Spring, but when NATO and the US unalived Gaddafi and threw that region and Libya into chaos and turmoil, it just seems like that's going on again. And especially when you look into all of the times the United States covert action agencies have interfered with these foreign governments, especially in the Middle East. They do it all over the world to secure U.S. interests. You just see their handiwork. And so my initial response was, they're at it again, messing with the Syrian people. If you believe the news, they appear to be happy. I don't know. Maybe he was a bad guy. I know who else is bad guy, and it's they're the richest super country in the world. It sucks to say it, but let's be real. So let's see. Israel strikes and advances into Syria. It looks like they bombed a bunch of their ships there in one of their ports, moving in on the ground, taking advantage of the situation, or working in conjunction with the rebels, so to speak. I'm skeptical. Sounds like the international community is condemning Israel for what they're doing, maybe taking advantage of the unrest in Syria. There was something else that is happening here. The naval ships in the port of Latakia while Israel ground forces moved into Syria. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. It's surprising to me how Israel can do so many military operations in the name of just defending themselves. They seem pretty aggressive, especially when you consider what some people have talked about as the Greater Israel Project, which I do believe they are ambitious in what they want to try to do. I mean, they've been stealing land from the Palestinians for decades. Why wouldn't they steal it from other people? This is one thing that I think about all the time, is this idea of how they treat one person or group of people is how they're going to treat all people or person or group of people. I mean, you will know them by their fruits, right? What are they doing to one person? They're going to probably do that to another person. And here again, they're saying, Israel is saying that the airstrikes and actions on the ground are aimed at preventing Assad's arsenal of rockets and chemical weapons from falling into hands of extremists. So it's always under preventing or defending or whatever else. And meanwhile, they advance their agenda. This is what's so crazy to me about why people can't seem to wrap their mind around the fact what's happening. One, I think they're in denial. I think many people are in denial of the fact that these bad actors in the world are moving forward. But two, it's like the brain doesn't connect the dots. Again, I don't need to I don't need a crystal ball. I don't need to guess about what the future is. I can pretty much get a good idea what the future is going to be by looking at the past. Looking at how Israel has treated the Palestinian people and all the people in that region, right? I'm learning, I never knew this before, even back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, all throughout the last 7 decades, Israel has been bullying and worse. I'm making that appear nice. So they've been harassing the people in that region for a long time. They moved into Lebanon, I think it was in the 80s, did a lot of bad deeds then. They've just been making a mess. The USS Liberty, all of these things that they've been doing over the last number of decades, and it's super weird that people can't put it together and see who the problem child is. And then when you hear Benjamin Netanyahu say that removing Saddam Hussein will create stability and will be the best thing for the Middle East, and then the U.S. goes in there and does that, and I don't think it's any safer now, right? And then the U.S. spending 20 years in Afghanistan. I'm not sure why people can't put it together that these people are not to be trusted. All of these, it's sketchy. It's sketchy. Let's see. And I'm not saying Assad was a good guy. I don't know whether he was a good guy or not. I'm saying I am skeptical of the mainstream media in the West, because I know they're not good guys. They're, the tools of the military industrial complex. So there's rumors of Assad imprisoning people, maybe political prisoners. I don't know. You don't really know what to believe. But looking back at the big picture, again, I only know what to believe about what's happening based on what has happened. Libya was a complete mess, and U.S. and NATO was involved there. Iraq turned out to be a complete mess and a lie, and the U.S. was involved there. So it's difficult to take the U.S. or any Western media at face value when they were complicit in the unaliving of hundreds of thousands of people in the Middle East, the destabilization and chaos that they've sowed, all in the name. They thought they had it right then, and I think we were being bullshitted back then. I just hope that people are waking up. Let's see. Yeah, again, the IDF spokesperson said that their only goal is to protect the state of Israel, but we know they're ambitious, and that's not their only goal based on the history, right? Let's see. Hours later, the IDF is now completing its establishment in the buffer zone and in controlled areas in order to protect the residents of the Golan Heights and the citizens of the state of Israel. It's just wild. All of these. The other thing, and I talked about this the other day in a short on my social media at @GMarkPhillips. The Western powers have been telling us for decades that everything they do around, to take our freedoms and civil liberties. I'm speaking specifically about the Patriot Act, speaking more so maybe in the future about more surveillance they want to put into digital IDs, passports, currencies. Everything they do is an effort to keep us safer. Why then does the world appear to be less safe than it ever has been? Feels to be less safe than it has been in a long time. If we've been giving away our freedom and civil liberties to these governments in the West, why then are there still wars? Are there still rumors of wars? Pandemics, border issues, race issues clashing, is once you flood these countries in the West with different cultures and then problems arise. Maybe some of those problems were actually instigated by insiders, covert action people inside there. I don't put it past them. That's how they operate, to agitate us so they can move forward with their Hegelian dialectic. It's just super interesting. I hope people are connecting the dots. I mean, I'm not the smartest, fruit in the basket, so to speak, but I hope people are connecting the dots, and maybe the people that are leading our country aren't on our side. And I say that, kind of tongue in cheek. That's kind of where I stand at the moment. Let's see. Confirm Israel's, again, they continue to violate apparently international law by doing all of these things, seizing land, especially as how they've been treating the Palestinians. Sounds like it's a land grab in Syria. This is what's so disheartening. One thing that I will say is, I'm fine if a country naturally wants to go through the process of maybe removing a leader or whatever. I just have there's a lot of suspect things that are going on when you know how the United States operates and how they've got their hands in all these places. I'm fine if countries want to change up their, leadership but I want it to be their choice, right? The people's choice. I don't like outside influence. And then when you look back again at history, all of these changes in regimes in these different countries have benefited the money powers that are heavily invested in the United States, either corporate or political or International Monetary Fund or bankers. It just seems really sketchy to me. And so I just don't ever see. And then whenever I see one of these things, I just see their fingerprint on this. There's my piece. I appreciate you hanging out with me. And, we'll see what happens in the future. This was an article that I was reading from NBC News called Israel Strikes and Advances into Syrian Territory After Assad's Overthrow, Fueling Alarm. There it is. If you haven't picked up the Great Awakening Guide, you can do that at greatawakeningguide.com. That's all the best resources all in one place to kind of give you a go-to guide so you can plow through these resources if you haven't already. I find them to be wildly fascinating, and I think it's helpful to be more knowledgeable about what's going on than less knowledgeable. So thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you. We'll talk to you next time.